Why on earth does this sport touring bike need to have 170 horsepower? Cue the intro. I'm Sean from Srkcycles. This is the Honda VFR 1200. And this is the DCT model. 2010, this was one of the fastest sport touring bikes out there at 170 horsepower and 90 foot-pounds of torque, which is just insane. And also weighing in at like 620 pounds. To put that into some perspective, the 2018 Honda Goldwing, which is known for just slaying CVO Harley Davidsons, is pushing out 100 horsepower, about 120 foot-pounds of torque, and weighs 830 pounds. This is way better specs than that. And then compare that to like my track bike, a 2007 GSXR 600, 400 pounds and 120 horsepower. This thing is just an impressive machine. You see it's rocking this awesome single-sided swing arm. Now normally they do have dual pipes. This one's been converted to a two brothers single. When they built this bike, what they were trying to do is compete with the bikes like the Kawasaki Concourse, the Yamaha FJR 1300, and also the BMW K1300S. What sets this bike, and those are all awesome bikes, but what really sets this bike apart from those bikes is mainly the size. Those bikes feel really big. You know, they got bigger front fairings, and they all have saddlebags on the back. And this bike feels much more nimble. This is much more on the sportier side than it is on the sport touring side, and does everything extremely well. Now, you can get bags that clip on here and are real nice and clean, but what's also different between this bike and those other bikes is this bike actually looks awesome, and it was kind of made to look good without bags. And then you put bags on it and it still looks good. You would never take your bags off of a Kawasaki Concourse. You would never take your bags off an FJR. They don't look right without the bag. So this is more of a convertible type of bike where it looks awesome without it, it looks good with it. Now, the reason this bike has 170 horsepower is because of the purpose of these bikes. They make these sport touring bikes to go as fast as you possibly can, for as long as you possibly can, as comfortably as you possibly can, which is completely different. Sport bikes are not made for long distances. Cruiser bikes are not made for high speed. That makes a sport touring bike very unique. Now in the United States, we don't really have the luxury of going that fast, but in Europe and the other countries they do, and they still bring these awesome bikes over and let us play around with them. So when you look at the bike from the other side, it looks like a perfectly normal motorcycle. When you turn it around and look at it from this side, every time I jump on this bike, it throws me off. There's no shifter peg. There's also no clutch. This is the DCT model, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that's gotta be weird, that's gotta be strange to ride. It's not gonna have the touch or the feeling as I normally would. It's actually pretty awesome. Honda's been doing the DCT for a long time, and you know, like this and the Africa Twin and the new Goldwings, and they have perfected it. You can see, of course, so there is no clutch. There is this e-brake that you pull because you need an e-brake because you can't keep it in gear and then turn it off. The neutral button over here, sport, drive. Actually, let me just show you how awesome it is. All right, guys, before the test drive, through the words of wisdom real quick. Proverbs 22:3, the prudent sees evil and hides himself, but the naive go on and they are punished for it. Let's do 4 while we're at it. The reward of humility and the fear of the Lord are riches, honor, and life. Awesome. When you're riding, you gotta wear the appropriate glove. These are the M1 Moto 507s. If you're looking for a pair of gloves, click on the link. Click on the link in the description. This is the product that we actually had manufactured specifically. I'm always trying to grab the clutch. All right, turn it on. Hold the brake. Press the start. There's neutral, right? Now we're in drive. Now we're in sport. Now we're back in neutral. So it's like this, drive. So this toggles from drive and sport, and this takes us back to neutral. Let's do sport, of course. And this is the e-brake, on, off. So you just roll on the throttle, super easy. And then when you're off the throttle and you're on the brake, it's not going anywhere. It's you know, it's kind of got like that centrifugal clutch feel. So it already shifted in the second because I'm pretty light on the throttle. But if you start getting in on it, it'll hold the gears for you. Now I don't know if this one has that learning ability, but the when I drove the Africa Twin, when I first rode it, I was like, it's a little goofy. It's not shifting where I want it to be. And then after riding it for a while, it just picked up on my style. That was a vision we just passed. It also downshifts. Now, you can put it in, so that's automatic mode, right? And that's where it's doing everything for you. It's a fully automatic motorcycle with sport, or just, if you put it in just regular drive. Let's see what drive do. It shifts a little bit softer, and it's not gonna, you know, shift it. It's gonna shift at a little different points. Now, if we switch that to manual mode, it's all up here. It's all in these toggles over here. So now we're in third. And the cool thing about it is it's DCT. So it's instant. And I know that's what everyone's worried about. Everyone's worried about, like, we've driven those older cars that had like the Tiptronic or whatever, you know what I mean? Where, oh, you put it in where you can change gears, and then you're in second, you put it in third, and then it goes into third. And that, you feel like you have no feeling. There's no comparison between that and manual. But if you can change the gears at will, faster than manual, then you might have something. Also, you don't have to let off the throttle. It tells you right there what gear you're in, and it really, I mean, when I say it's instant, I mean it's instant. By the time my finger is off the button, it has already shifted. It really is just seamless. But then if you're like, I don't want to shift, yeah, whatever, let it do the work. Throw it back in automatic mode. I mean, it really is awesome. And Honda's been doing the manual or the automatic thing for longer than anyone else has when it comes to motorcycles. And they really, really perfected it. I mean, back in, like, I don't know, the 70s or the 80s, they had a bike called the Honda Matic. It was like a 400. I know very little about it, but it existed. It was a thing. So there are going to be situations where there are people, let's say you only have one hand. Let's say you only have a right hand and you're missing your left hand. Let's talk about veterans, talk about a lot of people. You don't need a clutch. Everything you can do this whole thing in automatic mode, and you can ride a really, really awesome motorcycle. And you do not need two hands to ride a motorcycle. You can totally ride a bike with one hand. Same thing with your leg. My left leg is doing literally nothing over here. Nothing. So let's say I had issues with my ankle on my left side, or my bad left leg. And listen, I'm not saying this is a bike just for that, just for people who need something like that. This is an awesome bike. Like, this is not like, oh, it's good, it's good for them, but I could do something better. This is a sweet bike. I really enjoy riding it. And when you start grabbing the buttons over here, you don't have to put it on manual mode. You can just, like, you're cruising automatic, you're like, forget this, bam, downshift, you're there. This thing's fairly tame up to about 6,000 RPMs, and then once you hit 6,000 RPMs, it's a monster. Oh, you know what? I didn't even mention this in the walk-around video, or in the walk-around section of this video, but this thing's a engine configuration is one of my favorites, the V4. Love the V4. Just big, instant torque, awesome sound, awesome feel. There's very little to hate about the V4. I imagine it's going to be a good bike to do a 0 to 60. I'm going to use my rear brake. That makes more sense. 1, 2. Yeah. I have no idea when I hit 60. When I looked down, it said 70 and then instantly said 80 something. So that's the problem with motorcycles. With digital tachometers, you when it's accelerating, it'll every once in a while it's gonna flash a speed, and I'll admit my launch was a little bit slow. Launch was slow. I'm pretty sure I hit 60 in first gear. Let's talk about just cruising. Now when I say 80, I meant the speed limit. A little slip of the tongue. Let's talk about cruising on the highway. Ergonomics are awesome. Extremely comfortable bike. I mean, this thing is a couch compared to like a super sport. I could ride this thing all day long. Tank comes up nice and high. It's a perfect armrest. Just relax. You relax your throttle hand over here. That's the button. That's the button for the heated grips. Now if this thing had cruise control, that would be amazing. It does not. 15,491 miles. Over here it tells you the temperature of the air outside. Also tells you the time. That time is extremely wrong. Let's press some buttons. Whoa, look at that big thing. Look at that big fella right there. You gotta watch out for that stuff. It's an awesome bike. I mean, I know I was like, the DCT, it's not gonna feel good. It feels great. It really does feel great. And I can see for a lot of people. Now, okay, yeah, that's it. And don't get me wrong, this is no entry-level bike. This bike is quick. This bike is very fast. But the fact that it's DCT, it's gonna make it a little bit easier for beginners, maybe. It shifts flawlessly through the gears. Very, very smooth. And shifting up. Okay, so that confirms it. First gear takes you over 60 miles an hour. Well over 60 miles an hour. No, I mean, yeah, it takes you pretty far over 60 miles an hour. This thing's stretched out tall. That's what it's made. It's made for top speed. It's made for big, old-fashioned top speed. Scare your mom. Scare your mother-in-law. Going fast. All right, guys, that wraps it up. We will see you guys later. Do not forget, it's not what you're riding, but where are you going? And subscribe.